Hello traders and welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 119. It's Iliya here, and as always I'm super grateful to have you on my channel. And as you probably know, in this video we're gonna have a look at the market, how it developed this week, what opportunities did we have, and what we can potentially expect for the upcoming week, and I could also say month, because the monthly candle just closed, October just opened, and Q4 is finally here. And usually from experience, Q4 is one of the best quarters to trade for 3 months. And even though December is said to be like a holiday month or something, Q4 is the best. So definitely let's focus, let's analyze, and of course let's follow our edges, because we are definitely about to get into some trending markets. I'm not gonna go too much into trades this week, because I will possibly want to look slightly at the monthly time frame, because it's really important, and to point out some things that could potentially lead to a better trading decision, because the monthly is one of the most important time frames. Like it's the, yeah, of course you have quarterly time frame, you can check that out as well, but we're not gonna do that right now. And yeah, so of course, if you're new to this channel, it's all about trading. I share this weekly outlook and setups every Saturday, and once per week I share an educational piece of content and a trade setups breakdown video. So make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell in order not to miss the upcoming videos, because they're gonna come. I'm really focused on actually revamping my whole course program. The community is already revamped. We have some live sessions introduced during London and New York as well. Right now we're gonna be updating the courses and just making it more cohesive and all that stuff. So quite exciting news are about to come for us. And yeah, before I actually start, I want to mention that I trade crypto as well, and I do it with TraderForex.com. It is an amazing broker with tight spreads and commissions, but of course, if you pick their eco account, every lot that you trade will go towards planting 10 trees. So I'm really supporting this initiative, and I really enjoy taking lots, especially on crypto, as it's skyrocketing right now again. So make sure to check them out. Link will be down in the description. And if you already did, let's see what do we have for this beautiful week ahead. All right, let's get started with a DXY to potentially see where the dollar is headed. So it's a really nice tip that I can give you, because sometimes we're like, cool, looking, the market is in a downtrend, it is respecting supply, it is creating lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. But it's always important to really monitor sometimes from right to left, okay? Because if you start from the left, you see, okay, cool, downtrend, the market is creating lower highs, this could be a double top, so we can basically reverse to the downside. But what actually happened, and what I've been pointing out for a couple of weeks, is that cool, we pull back, we created a lower high, but usually after a lower high, what you should have, a lower low. Did we have this? No. So basically there is your reversal, and again, you should just look at this one, ignore what is happening right here, just look what is happening right now. And then of course the biggest thing that we wanted to see is if the market is going to give us a deeper pullback into this range from the low to the high, or is it going to continue, because for a couple of weeks I've been pointing that we have a higher low right there, higher low right there, and a higher low right here. And exactly actually the previous week we had a little indecision candle right there. So it was really all about actually seeing if the market was going to break above this level, or was it going to create the MSS formation and then to potentially head lower into this area and then explode. Okay, but as we can see right now, we are having a break, a clear break, and a close above, which definitely confirms the uptrend, and that definitely confirms this as our major higher low structure. Okay, if we maybe have a quick look at the monthly, you can see that the monthly is also a very strong candle to the upside. Also, even from the monthly, you can see that although this was a lower high, because coming from this structure right there, this is a lower high, right? What should a lower high follow with? A lower low. Do we have a lower low? Nope. We created the shift again. Okay, so you can see this low is higher than this one. Basically, we have a higher low. And what we could expect potentially is for the market to right now continue rallying into the highs. Okay, and just again to zoom in, usually after such a bullish candle, we're gonna have some sort of a pullback. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna take the fib from the low to the high of the monthly candle. And then if you drop on the weekly, okay, you have something like this. So what I would expect again is just a very simple range, and then translating this on the daily, you can see that we're having this push from the low to the high. And basically what I'm going to be waiting for is for the market to potentially start the month by creating a little pullback, okay, possibly around the 50%, and then to potentially see the market starting to rocket to the upside. Okay, higher lows are beautifully maintained right here. In terms of daily, we have a couple of levels to look at. Now, if I just make this a little bit tighter like this, basically this one was a pretty major level, and then potentially at the downside, I find this to be a potential higher low as well. Okay, so those are the two levels that I'm potentially going to be looking for the market to pull back, maybe early into the week, or maybe we can have a week of pullback and then potentially 3 weeks of expansion. Okay, but this is what I'm going to be looking for. Those are my daily level. They got disappeared again. But yeah, basically on the 4-hourly, what we can see is that we're having a little bit of a market structure shift right now. Like we had the market break the high, then the market actually reversed, broke the low, created this lower high formation, which is basically your MSS that I teach in the free market structure course. And yes, potentially, as I told you right now, we can expect a pullback, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and a little downtrend into the 50% and into this overall daily range, because this range is that daily bearish candle that I just showed you before. Okay, so those are my expectations, to be honest. If I go back to the daily, I will mainly analyze on the daily, because again, we're looking for that pullback, and shorter term, I'm going to be looking for shorts on the DXY towards that level. And then as it comes right here, I'm going to potentially start to situate myself for longs and for continuations. So let's see if that's going to play out. We have some amazing weeks ahead of us. Let's have a look at Euro USD on the weekly time frame as well. We're having a massive bearish engulfing candle that not only broke the most recent lower low, but it also, if you have a look on the left, like this is the kind of the lowest low inside this whole range. Okay, and yeah, it used to be a higher low, but right now actually it's broken. So what does that confirm to us is that we can potentially start seeing some downside. Okay, and where to? Well, potentially we should see what is on the left potential demand areas, and the first demand level that I see is this little range right here. So basically I can embrace it like that, the whole range, and this could be a potential area that we can look for. But if I just point out to the monthly time frame as well, let's ignore what happened right here. It's not really significant to us. Let's zoom in. And again, what do we have is the market pushing to the upside, creating this beautiful high. Then actually took from January 2018 to March 2020, which is quite a lot of time, to potentially actually form this higher low formation and to start heading higher. But again, my biggest concern right now is that we actually failed to make a new high, right? So we basically respected the supply. We were coming to it with a very nice bullish trend, like we had a massive push, pullback, higher low, higher high, beautiful, higher low. So from this higher low, we should have seen a higher high and then a potential break of this high. Okay, but did we have this? No. And what do we have? We have a shift. We have the MSS formation. And what do we also have is a break of this, which was supposed to be the higher low. And right now we have a break of that. Okay, so everything points to the downside right now on EU. And yeah, not everything, but we're just potentially initiating a little pullback. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that whole monthly range from the low to the high, and as you can see, exactly that demand area is below 50%. So this could be potential longs area right here, and then of course the next long area will be down there. Okay, so is it gonna reach right there? Well, we don't know. This is a really long-term analysis, because yeah, towards those area we have 300 and is it 3,000 or 300? I'm not really sure, but it's a lot of pips towards those levels. Okay, so this is kind of the macro perspective. And what I would be expecting to happen more shorter term is to have potentially a pullback of that huge bearish engulfing on the monthly. Okay, weekly time frame, what do we have is simply a push that created a lower low. So maybe let me delete some of those lines. Okay, a push that created a lower low, and again this lower high held right there, which we spoke about. This one is broken, so a great confirmation for a potential downtrend. Okay, and then just dropping to the daily, what we can see is that this is our daily range. Okay, and what we want to do is to see a pullback, and very similarly to the DXY, we're having this overall supply level that we can react from. We can maybe even make it red. Oops, that was a lower time frame supply. Let me make it a hard time frame supply. There we go. And yes, potentially we could be looking towards this, which is around the 50%. And of course, if this doesn't react, then potentially we have to see if the market is going to reach into the higher portion of the 50%. And yeah, potentially we can also find some supply levels right there. But for me right now, it is really important to see some sort of a pullback, because EU has been just flushing down like mad. Right, so we actually just started from the 16th of September, the just massive pump down, little range right here. Basically the market was reacting from this little demand right there. We reacted, but what happens after the reaction? This demand is just a cause for the market to create a pullback and then just to drop. Okay, so when you merge actually market structure and supply and demand, you get towards the why market structure forms. Okay, and yes, basically if I just drop to an intraday time frame, which is the 4 hourly time frame, and we're having a massive dump to the downside. So what I would really love to see is a little bit of a pullback towards this little range. Okay, but if we really zoom in, what do we have right now is a little lower high formation right there. The market respected it. So potentially for reversals for me, I would really love to see a 4 hourly shift. Okay, so what would that look like for me is maybe a pullback, a failure to break to make a new lower low. Okay, and then a push and a break of this structure. And then potentially I'm going to be looking for the pullback and potentially a new uptrend towards that daily level. Okay, and then from there I'm gonna start prepping for shorts because the DXY would have pulled back and everything will start aligning for a potential longer term leg to the downside. Okay, so let's see how that's gonna happen. Of course, it's not ready yet. The hourly time frame started to cook up a little bit. There were some beautiful longs to be taken on Friday. The trade that I took, I think I only traded on Thursday this week, so I'm not really sure where Thursday is. I probably traded inside this range and I got 3 losses on that day, so I'm down 1.5% this week, which is not really nice. And yeah, I'm not really gonna go into because you're not gonna extract anything from my trades this week, and hopefully much better trades are gonna come so I can do more trade setups breakdown videos. Okay, so guys, this is my overall outlook on EU. Again, looking for maybe a little shift to potentially trade it to the upside. What is the other scenario is that we're just gonna continue going down, and if we do this, we just continue following the trend, right? And follow the trend until you're wrong and until it taps into this big blue area. Okay, so that is EU. Let's see how it develops. Of course, make sure to stay tuned for the Tuesday analysis on Telegram, where I'm going to give you an update. And yep, let's see. Let's analyze Euro JPY. We're starting from the monthly time frame again. And just looking at the monthly candle, we can see that there are a lot of wicks coming from the downside. Okay, so that definitely means rejection from the downside, but we can see that the candles still continue to form bearish. And what we also have in this month actually that it closed is we have this wick. So basically what the market did is it tried to be bought, but then it flushed down and closed bearish. Okay, and if we try to find what is our overall range, okay, basically the market pushed right here, pulled back. Let's check if this was a 50%. Well, not really, but again, what I would take is this low to this high, and as you can see, we're just tapping almost into the 50%. Okay, so EJ for me is a little bit tricky. It's a pair that I do not trade, but definitely I do think we have some more downside on this one. To potentially the next monthly candle can potentially make maybe a wick down, and then can we maybe reverse up? I am not really sure, but let's try to analyze more on the weekly time frame. It could make a little sense and a little more sense. And as you can see, that little wick right there that I marked is actually forming the bearish structure, but it's not really clear. Again, if this was our lower low, we pull back lower high, then we fail actually to break this structure, and we formed, yeah, it looked like perfectly equal. So this would actually be a great target. Okay, but again, in terms of the monthly, from the low to the high, that was our range. So basically I would be really interested to buy EJ from this higher time frame demand. Okay, this is why I potentially would like to buy it. Therefore, let's focus on intraday sells right now. And again, as you can see on the daily, it's not really clear because we had like this lower high right there that was almost broken. Then the market pulls back, and then we said, okay, cool, let's see if the market is gonna find demand from here. And right now it looks like it found it, but it did not actually break any structure above. So what that could mean is that we can have a shift right now. This could be a lower high formation, and potentially we can go lower. Okay, but this is a little bit of a difficult scenario when you have this, because basically you are right now stuck in the range. If you look at it objectively, you are in a range. Okay, the market is failing to break the highs, the market is failing to break the lows, and the market is also stuck within the range. Okay, so be careful with EJ, and as well, I am more bearish than bullish on this one. And if you drop on the 4 hourly time frame, we can see that the market reversed from down there. We had a massive pump into the highs. It then failed to make a new high. Then we actually started breaking to the downside. Okay, so currently the momentum is bearish, and we're about to encounter this little demand right here. So potentially to react from. And then from there right now, what I would expect intraday on EJ is to potentially have a pullback. Okay, so let's see if we can have any bullish pullback towards these areas to create a lower high, break, retest, and then potentially my first target will be this low. Okay, because usually EJ is correlated to USD JPY and Euro USD. And if Euro USD falls down, then this one is usually gonna follow, but it also depends on UJ, which we're gonna have a look a little bit later. But as I told you guys, currently EJ is stuck between supply and demand, so we have to see who is gonna get control. Okay, but overall I'm looking for a pullback, lower high formation somewhere inside this little range right there, which is a supply, and potentially to take a short from there. So let's see how that's gonna play out. Let's have a look at the Aussie starting from AU on the monthly time frame. So again, we can see that the market was tried to be bought, but then we actually sold off, but we're still having that wick from the downside, which I do not really like. And what we also have is that we're just currently into a monthly demand. Okay, so that is pretty important. As you can see how the market actually wicked inside, got a lot of buying pressure, and right now we're just slowly coming back towards it again, possibly to get more orders in order to push the market up. Okay, so currently in terms, again, as I told you, in terms of monthly, we are overall bullish because again, from the downside, we broke this structure. We created a higher high, the market pulled back, higher low. It didn't really pull back into 50%, but usually this is AU. It doesn't tend to pull back that much. And then we actually impulsed into the highs, created a new higher high, and right now we're potentially pulling back for a new higher low. So let's see if that is actually going to be the case. And if you remember, it was actually looking really good, because if we try to find where is our last lower high, it was right here. And also if you struggle with identifying structure, go to your line chart, and basically there is your lower high right here. But also I like taking the wicks right here. So basically that is even further confirmation that the lower high was broken. Okay, and basically putting all those confluences together, we have a monthly level, we have a weekly shift right there, and on the daily right now we're in this big pullback stage, but AU has been on a sell-off, okay, which I do not really like. And as you can see, this is what always happens. You try to find a level to buy from, it gives you a reaction flushes, a level to buy from, it gives you a reaction flushes. So right now we can have a level to buy from, it could give you a reaction and then flush again. Okay, so what you do is you just follow the flow. Okay, what is also the daily doing right now? It is creating a bearish structure. Where is our lower high? It's right there. Okay, let me make it red. And potentially, as long as it stays below this level, then I do not really want to consider longs. Okay, of course we have that very extreme demand right there that we can potentially tap inside, so that will be a nice area, of course, to look for longs. But then if you drop to the 4-hourly time frame, you can see that we're overall bearish. Okay, so basically since the top, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, boom, a big lower low right there. And we can argue right here a little bit because we broke structure right here, and basically the supply that broke structure was this one. And as you can see, what we did is we actually pushed into it. We tried to reverse down, but we failed. Okay, and then we actually respected hourly. There is an hourly demand just right there. I'm possibly gonna show you, and we massively rampaged into the highs. Okay, so as you can see, what if there is my other theory? What if we have a range, manipulation of the range, and then potentially a continuation into the highs? So that could be the other play that we could have on AU. Okay, so really stay focused. This is the last area that I'm gonna be considering selling. So right now, so basically we're entering into a sell area, but what this sell area could do is it can make the market pull back, create a higher low, and then pump into the highs. Okay, so again, as I tell you, it's really important time right now for all the pairs, because we're gonna see either continuations or just, yeah, this could possibly reverse. And again, as I was telling you, like on the hourly time frame, you can see that we reacted from supply, but we just see the momentum coming from the downside. We see the shift, we see the market massively pumping up and very correctively pulling down, and there was a lovely trade right there on Friday, all the way back into the supply. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to see how the market is going to react from here. And overall, what I would expect, just if we look at simple market structure, is to have a pullback. Okay, where to? Well, I saw just a very nice level on the 2-hourly time frame. So there is my demands stacking right there, demand stacking right there. So basically you can see we're starting to see a little bit of bullishness. Okay, so I would love to sell from here. Take my trade to the downside, TP right here, or at 50% of this overall range right here, and then potentially see how it's gonna go. Okay, so potentially right now intraday looking for sells, maybe even from here if provided the opportunity, but I would love for the market to push into this area and then to potentially see some shorts, but then I'm gonna be mindful of the overall range as well if it happens like this. and of course prepare for longs because we're sitting at a monthly level. Have a look at the reaction from the monthly level. So this is where we tapped and we just boom, we broke structure. Okay, so this could just simply be push, very nice corrective pullback, and a push. And if you also want me to give you another tip, have a look from the low to the high, we took 14 days. And then from the high to the low, we took 26 days. Okay, so that means that the push was more impulsive than the pullback. Okay, so that suggests that we're potentially bullish. Okay, but that is my analysis, guys. Maybe we can take some shorts, then potentially go into the longs and then see if the market is gonna break this level. And if this level gets broken, we are going long. Okay, and if we have a look at AJ, monthly time frame as well, a lot of wicks. Like, look at those wicks, 2 indecision monthly candles. So what does that suggest? I don't know. Indecision, that does not give us too much context, so potentially we can drop on the weekly time frame. Weekly time frame, similarly to AU, reacted from something, potentially something inside that wick right there. If we drop onto a lower time frame, we can potentially see something inside right here. And again, very similarly, we broke weekly structure. Dropping on the daily, you can see that we have a beautiful kind of stop right there and a massive impulsive move outside of it. We perfectly came inside 50%, broke structure, and right now we went onto that correction phase. But as you can see, the market actually is already trying to reverse on this one, and this is because of the JPY, because of UJ. And if we have a look on the 4 hourly time frame, we had the beautiful bearish trend. We created the low right here, we broke lower low. This was the lower high. The lower high was also broken. So right now we're actually in the bullish trend already on this one. So potentially I can confidently say that we might be headed for a new higher high. Okay, but where do we trade it from? Let's see. If our range starts from the low all the way into the high, I want to trade it below 50%, which we already wicked into. Okay, potential area could be this wick. So this is potentially where we reacted from. Okay, AJ is very tricky because it's basically, it looks like it's already done. And even if you drop to a lower time frame, you can see how the patterns repeat themselves. We manipulate down, we actually break structure up. So for me on AJ, if we have maybe a pullback into the downside right there, and if I really see the signs, we can potentially start looking for longs immediately and target this new high. Okay, so let's see how that's gonna go. I do think that the Aussies can potentially, of course, push to the upside, but I'm always mindful of the opposite trade. So if I take longs, I'm always asking, okay, where are the shorts? Okay, but basically this is my analysis on the Aussies. Longs on AU, first a pullback, and also on longs on AJ, but first we could potentially see some pullback. So let's see how they're gonna develop. Let's have a look at the NZDs, which surprisingly are more bearish than bullish, and also compared to the Aussies. Okay, so in terms of the monthly time frame, we're having this push, and that push was initiated from right here. So basically this is the pullback, the bearish candle. We take it into the highs, and as you can see, we're already below 50%. So this market is actually getting ready to be bought potentially, right? And where I would love to see the price, of course, is inside this little demand area, but is that required? Not really. But the problem is that currently we are slightly bit bearish, but of course it is yet to see a market structure shift, because again, very similar to the Aussies, we had a range, manipulated the range, massive pump to the upside. Why do I say manipulated? Well, of course, if I delete it like this right now, is this manipulation for you? Well, you would say no. I have a break of structure, right? And you look for shorts as the market pulls back. But then when you have come on, what is happening? Why doesn't it? Okay, but yeah, when you have this, then potentially you took a short and you took a loss. And right now what do you have is you have a reversal. And so basically if you have a pattern like this, the market ranging, pushing down, showing you bears, but then breaking above, then this thing right there is a manipulation. Okay, or just a spike, yeah, whatever. And yeah, so currently again, very similarly, we broke the high right here, so we're in that pullback phase. And as you can see on the daily, we pulled back quite deep. If we took the range from the low to the high, we almost tapped the very extreme level right here. But again, as you can see, it is really bearish right now. It took the market from the low to the high 14 days, and then to retrace, yeah, okay, then to retrace again 25 days, which means that the bullish push was much stronger than the bearish one. But then of course, dropping onto the 4 hourly, this hasn't changed yet. Okay, basically we have this overall I'm not really sure how to draw it like this. This overall range, lower high that the market is currently reacting from. So what I would love to see from this one is a pullback, higher low formation, and then a break. Okay, so that for me will be the best confirmation that the market is potentially reversing, and I would potentially be taking buys from this level. Why? Because if I drop to a lower time frame, the market from the hourly failed to break the lows, basically an MSS formation, push, higher high, pullback, higher low, and then a massive expansion to the upside. Okay, so if I have a pullback towards that level, I will be feeling free to take a long and potentially just be mindful that maybe if this supply really works, then I can potentially get stopped out and then we can continue for a new lower low. Okay, but if that happens, of course, we're going to have a little pullback so I can take a short and then ride it into the lows. Okay, so very simple plan on NZDs. Of course, the higher time frames, the monthly, the weekly also suggest longs. So I'm definitely curious to see how this level is going to respond and if we're potentially going to start having longs. Of course, we never know what's going to happen, guys, and that's the thing with the markets. When there is a majority that thinks that this market is potentially going to go up, usually it's going to go down. So of course, always be mindful and always try to ask, okay, where could potentially be shorts if you're looking for longs. On NZD/JPY, the range started from here and ended there, almost tapped into the 50%, which is of course fine. On the weekly time frame, of course, we had the same formation. It's basically the same, a flush down, a break back up, and right now we're creating this little pullback. And yeah, basically where this one is reacting from is potentially from this little stop right there. So we have this rally, it stops for a second and then we rally again. Basically this was a little accumulation of orders in order to push the market up, and we pulled back inside it. We very strongly reacted, and right now we come back again. So it's a really key situation for NJ because that could be the creation of an MSS formation. Okay, so if this low holds and if we continue to push away from it, then according to me we might see the reversal. But of course we're having some supply coming from top. The market is in a reversal phase. So basically, as I always tell you, there is a constant battle between buyers and sellers and between supply and demand. Okay, so basically we have to see which one is gonna persist. And of course, dropping on the 4-hourly, which is gonna be the very useful time frame, because you can see from the 4-hourly, you see guys, I hope you're enjoying this analysis because we start from the monthly and we build all of that picture, and by the time we get to the 4-hourly, it's very clear. Okay, we have a push, pullback, lower high. The lower high was broken with a sharp impulse to the upside. The market is currently in the pullback stage, coming right here, reacting. Where is our lower high? It's right here, this wick. So if this wick gets broken, if I have a pullback, I'm longing this. Okay, so basically there is my plan, combining it with all the higher time frames that we just analyzed. And I would really love to actually have a break. If you go to the line chart, we're already in a higher high. Okay, but I really want to see a close above, and then potentially if this closes above, I'm going to be waiting for a pullback, higher low formation, and then a continuation up. So that is my plan on NZD/JPY, something the same as on NU. So everything is aligning. Let's see if the market is actually going to go with us. Let's have a look at USD/JPY, which is a very tricky pair, of course, when it comes to the monthly time frame and the hard time frames. Okay, it's like really tricky for me to figure out if this is bullish or bearish because we have all of that range right here. But if you look into the finer details, we're having this little bullish candle right here that broke structure down. So this created a lower low. And then from here, we actually broke that structure up. Okay, of course, later we reacted from supply right here, but what you're gonna see is from then we had this very long and very weak correction. Okay, and where did it travel towards? This area right here, which is demand. Okay, and what we're having right now is a big pump, a very big correction. There is actually manipulation inside, and the market actually filled that wick right there, and right now we're having an impulse. And if I try to find a lower high, it would be this one right here, because this is a bullish pullback and a push to the downside. If you look at the line chart, yeah, even this one was broken right here. So basically we can see that we're overall bullish. Okay, I am more bullish than bearish on UJ. But then the next question is, are we gonna buy from here? Is it gonna rocket from here? Well, this is what we have to see, because again, if I drop the range from the low to the current high, the market hasn't given much of a pullback. Okay, and yeah, it's again maintaining those higher low formations potentially. If you drop on the weekly, again, you can see that we pull back, higher low, then it is a break. We created a higher high. So basically then this becomes our major higher low. And as you can see, it's just staying above it, which is fine. This weekly candle is just a big wick. It's not a close, which kind of does not make me too confident. But yeah, so as you can see, this one is slightly tricky. Of course, if you drop to the daily, it is overall bullish. We had a massive pump to the upside. So keeping the bullish bias from the monthly, weekly is also bullish, daily is also bullish, then we can potentially say that this pair is bullish. Okay, we have a massive pump, a break of structure. Where does that break originate from? Well, there is the origin. So this is basically our major high low or major demand. And yes, potentially we also have our range from the low to the high. And if the market pulls back potentially below 50% on the daily, I would be interested in buying. Okay, and then of course, if you drop to the 4-hourly time frame, we had a higher low, higher high. Then right now the higher low is broken, which means that we're in a supply market. And then you can potentially start looking for sells towards that 50% or towards that demand right there. Okay, simple. And yeah, potentially we can look for sells from here. And if this doesn't work out, then we can look for sells from here. But of course, guys, this market is bullish, so don't try too hard to sell it. Okay, but of course, for me, I would really love to see a tap of the 50%. We have a little demand right there at the 50%. So let's see if that is going to be enough for the market to continue pumping up. But if not, then I'm going to be looking for that extreme level and then from there to start buying it. Okay, if I check the hourly time frame, yeah, this one really doesn't look bad for sales right here, and potentially into the extreme right there. But of course, if we start coming right here, then we would have already broken and creating an uptrend. So taking a sell from here would be aggressive. So for me, this one is the major lower high that also broke structure to the downside. So if the market actually pulls back right there, I would be interested for sells. And if the market straight starts pushing down, then I'm going to be looking for buys, potentially either from this area or a little bit lower. Okay, so stay focused. Let's see how this is going to play. It's not entirely clear. The levels are not very clear for me. So potentially it's going to be really important to follow the intraday price on the hourly time frame, which is currently bearish, and on any change of structure that is supported by the higher time frame, which is bullish, then we can potentially start buying this pair. Okay, so let's see. Looking forward for the monthly open and see where we're going to take us. All right, let's have a look at the GBPs, as always, starting with the King GBP USD. So basically I'm on the monthly time frame right now, and if you carefully have a look, overall this market is again in an overall range. Okay, if we just have a look from the left, the market is respecting some lower highs, lower high, lower low, lower high. But if this lower high failed really to make a clear lower low, which should be below this one, we basically wicked it right there on the March. I do think that should have been the Corona crisis, and since then we actually started pumping up. Okay, there was something inside this wick, so basically I should draw those red maybe just to see how we're gonna turn from red, and how you're gonna see the blue also coming from the downside. Okay, and basically, as you can see, we have actually been on the bullish trend. We tapped inside this level, we reacted beautifully, we came again, and right now we're reacting again. Okay, basically all the orders are taken from this level, and we shall see right now where is our next point of liquidity, which I do think should be this higher low right here. That is on the monthly. This is our higher time frame demand. So potentially this is where the market is pulling back towards. The overall range actually starts from this pullback, from this bearish candle that created the higher low, and then we pumped into the highs. And as you can see, we're already below 50%. Yeah, not currently because the pricing is above the 50%, but we tapped into the 50%, but I still think we could have some downside on it. Okay, on the weekly time frame, it's very important to see that we're having an overall break of structure right here of the most recent low. And as you can see, since we tapped right here, we actually failed to break above this high. We just wicked it, broke structure down, and then we created a little downtrend. Okay, so currently GU is actually bearish, and the weekly candle is also closed with a strong bearish candle below this structure. So then transferring this onto the daily, knowing that we're overall bearish and we're potentially traveling towards those little regions right there, you can see right now that supply is taking control. Okay, so we're in this big demand market, then the market failed to break above this. We have push, pullback, push, pullback, push. Right here, it looked like it was finding a little bit demand, so we tried to push up, but we failed to break above this level. And right now we're having the sell-off, which for me means that we're going down. Okay, down towards these levels. And of course, you can always find something on the left. But what's gonna happen is the more levels you find on the left, like this, you're gonna have a reaction break, reaction break, reaction break. Okay, so don't try too hard to find levels on the left and try to trade from them. Okay, use them as reaction points. For example, why is this right now pulling back? Well, because there is something on the left. Okay, if we go look on a time frame, we're gonna find something right here. Does that mean that we should go long all in? No, it's just a reaction for the market to give us the pullback. And if I really zoom in on the daily, it is absolutely clear. Lovely, we're having a massive drop to the downside that broke structure. The move originates from this overall range right here. So if the market actually comes towards that range, I will be looking for shorts. Okay, so that is our daily zone. And as you can see, in terms of the 4 hourly, we're seeing a little bit of a shift. Okay, so the market is potentially traveling towards the 50% of the daily range. And what we see is a little MSS formation from the downside. So the market actually failed to make new lows. We also had a little bit of supply right there. The market, basically the market reacted from that wick right here. It responded. This is an hourly level as well. Responded, then tried to push down, failed, and right now we're pushing up, also breaking above the structure. So that means that shorter term, we are bullish right now. So if eventually GU maybe pulls back towards this area right here, we can potentially take a long. If of course we do this at the beginning of the week. So if we commence with a pullback inside this area, then I can potentially look for an entry and then take it towards this range where I can potentially look for the sells. Okay. So this is my plan on GU. Again, hourly time frame looks bullish. We're potentially traveling towards the 50%. I would love to see some of those levels get tapped. And again, overall, we are bearish, traveling towards the 50% of this level and towards the lower portion of the range. And of course, what we could have right now, you can see all of that empty space right here. All of that empty space, this has to be filled. Okay, at least towards 50% of this big range right there. So if I actually do this from the low to the high, you can see that exactly 50% is around that area. So definitely we can pull back towards this, because that is, if I maybe give you some examples, usually when the market pushes very strongly somewhere, it's usually gonna fill the empty space. Again, you can see a massive uptrend, the market fills the empty space. A massive downtrend, the market fills the empty space. Up fills it. And right now we're having only up. And basically all of that thing right here, all of this has to be filled with some price action. Okay, so we can definitely expect a little bit of bearishness on GU. But of course, if you really zoom in, then currently right now we can look for little longs, take it from here, and then potentially take a swing trade to the downside. Okay, so this is my outlook on GU. Let's see how it's gonna play out. GJ, let's maybe have a look at the monthly. Overall, bullish. Again, if you just look at the most recent price action, we again wicked the low where we're coming from some supply, which was right here. But yeah, then this supply failed to make really a confirmed lower low. It just wigged below it. And then basically we started breaking structure above, creating new highs. And for me, GJ is on a bullish trend. The question is it going to continue bullish from here? Or are we going to have a pullback to the downside? Well, if GU is also going to give us that deep pullback, then GJ is possibly going to follow. Okay. And if UJ also it's going to pull back a little bit to the downside, that's going to be lovely for shorting GJ. Okay. Dropping onto the weekly, it's been a couple of months of, it's not really clear to read. Again, this one, overall bearish. I can see that we're overall forming lower highs. And if I drop on the daily time frame, it is really tricky because again, we haven't broken this low. The market is in a supply market right now, meaning bearish market, but we failed to break the lows, but we also don't break the highs. So if you look at it objectively, what are we doing? We're ranging, right? But of course, if you really look at the candles, if you really look at the intraday, we can see clearly that it is bearish, okay? So basically we had the supply, it was respected right here. Then we create a new one, and this push to the downside actually did it break structure. If we drop to the lower time frame, it broke. Okay, so basically then now our next area becomes that wick. We reacted from the wick, and right now we're already on the move down to potentially make a new lower low. Okay, so let's see if that's gonna happen. Then dropping onto the 4 hourly, we can see that the market just like tapped into this area, reacted very nicely, went into the demand, and right now we're in this pullback stage. So it's really important to see if it's really gonna continue down. And currently we're actually sitting at a very important level, because this is the supply on the 4 hourly. This is the supply that also broke structure to the downside. The previous one is already tapped. Okay, so basically we should see a reversal from here. If it doesn't happen from there, then potentially we can have a little long towards this area. And then if this area holds, then we can potentially have the sell. Okay, so keep in mind and just follow the flow. Overall, we're perfectly bearish. So preferably I would love to go short on GJ, and currently this is a good area for shorting as well. But of course we need the same thing on the hourly. I would love to see a break on the hourly, retest, and then a potential continuation down. Okay, so that's my plan on GJ. Overall bearish, but of course let's see which level is going to get respected. GA, this is a pair that I do not trade at all. Possibly you know that, but let's give it a go. Monthly time frame, a push and a pullback, and overall bullish market. Okay, so that's good. Let's drop the monthly range from the low to the high. It's not yet towards the 50%. Weekly, I can see a little change because we had a little pullback. We broke, so we made a high, but then we broke the low. Okay, and then we push pullback, lower high. So I am potentially bearish on this pair, just building from monthly, weekly, daily. Yeah. On the daily, we had a big pump. Right now, we're strongly headed to the downside. It looks like it's going to be testing demand right now. So it's really important to actually see a reaction. But overall, I do think we're going to have a potential break lower towards that 50% of the monthly. And yeah, so let's see, guys. Let me know what are your thoughts on GA. How do you trade this? It's so messy for me. I've never read this pair clearly. But of course, right now we're tapping into demand. And if I just see the major structure, the last one should be this one right here. So this one is the last kind of supply and or lower high. So if we potentially pull back into this area, then cool, we can take a short. But right now we're going to be fighting with demand. So let's see how this one is going to react. But yes, for me, this one is not very clear. So I give this one to you guys. You let me know what's going to happen on GA. Euro GBP, this is a very tricky pair because it's a combination of Euro USD and GBP USD, and usually they tend to move together, which means that this pair, majority of the time, it's in the consolidation. But if you look on the monthly, yeah, the majority of the time it has a hard time frame consolidation, and then it has a lower time frame consolidation, and then it has a micro time frame consolidation as well. So right here, this pair is a mess, and yeah, I would really prefer to only use it for correlation. Weekly time frame, push up, down. It didn't really break structure right here. It just wicked. It just wicks, bro. I don't know. Daily time frame. This looks like a really significant high that also broke structure lower. And as you can see, this one was actually respected and we really nicely reacted from it. So can we have this case on this one? A range, manipulation, and then a push down. Remember this pattern? I told you this pattern on NZDUSD, I think. So if you didn't watch NZDUSD, go check it out because I explained it there. And yeah, currently it looks like a push and a pullback for potential longs. Okay, so let's see how this one is gonna hold right now. Yeah, currently we're tapping into this little kind of demand level. So let's see if it's gonna respond. But overall, if we know that this is a very major level that we tapped inside and we're seeing a beautiful reaction, the market is already starting to build some bearishness, some bearish structure. So let's see, my current supply is this one from this wick, because if I drop to the hourly, this is going to be the zone right there. So let's see if it's going to find some support from here, maybe just to give us the pullback towards that area, lower high formation, and then we can look for the shorts. Okay, but if this supply right here gets invalidated, then we can potentially look for the longs. Okay, because again, if you just look objectively at it, we broke structure up and we should be looking for upwards movement. But if you just focus on the 4 hourly and you're not aware what happens on the daily, for example, that the daily is in an overall push and a pullback, you can potentially miss out. Okay, and then you can wonder, okay, why did this one reverse down when we were in a bullish market? Okay, so those are my GBP analysis, guys. Let's see how they're gonna play. As I said, the new month is opening, a new quarter is opening, so stay focused. Follow also the higher time frame because those are the time frames that are going to determine the overall direction. Don't try to trade only 15 minutes and 1 minute. Always go with the flow of the higher time frames. Okay. Let's have a look at gold. So simply, if we think of the correlation, right now the DXY is pushing up, the dollar is strong, and usually gold is against the dollar. So gold should be falling down. Okay, very simple. And if we just simply observe the overall market structure, we're having this high, the market pushes lower. This should have been the higher low. The market pushes higher, it fails to break above, and then we have a lower low right there. Pull back, lower high. So we should be headed for a new lower low. Okay, but then as you can see, that lower low actually just got faked right here. Just got wicked maybe by a pipette or something. But yeah, it still hasn't broken. So are we gonna break the 1700s? Possibly. In terms of weekly time frame, what I also liked about gold is that we failed to break above this lower high, because again we had a push, pullback, lower low, lower high, which was absolutely equal, and right now we're potentially headed lower. If we drop on the daily as well, we created this big quick right there, then we started pulling back, but again we actually failed to break higher, and then the uptrend was changed since here we broke the higher low, we made a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Okay, so the major structure that I'm looking at is this one, potentially to see a reaction from that area, and then to potentially see further downside. Okay, this is daily. For hourly, you can see that we're initiating some bullishness right now, but this is probably because the DXY is also pulling back. So really try to work with DXY as well and gold. But yeah, I do think that we're potentially gonna reach towards these little levels right here, like a 1780, 1770, and maybe have a look for shorts from there. We never know. Again, as I told you in an earlier pair, usually if everyone thinks gold is going short, it's usually gonna go long. So be careful about that. But my thoughts on gold are shorts in terms of simple correlation, and of course structure is down, and of course we only need a very nice level to sell from, which for me is this overall area. I can even take it like this because we also have a big wick right there. So basically also inside that wick there is always something to look at. So if we get inside this area, then I'm going to be looking for shorts. So let me know guys what you think of gold. Interesting price action on the indices. So basically the monthly candle closed as bearish, which is lovely. So we're having a pullback, a correction, and as you can see, even since only the first day of the month, we're having a pretty bullish candle already printing. So that is really interesting. So again, it really depends if this level is actually going to hold. Because if you remember, this was a very strong daily level. So we reacted from it, we pulled back, but as you can see, I marked this as a shift. But did it really break above the structure on the daily? Not really, just wicked above. And right now we again faked below, okay? So for me right now, it's really important to see if we're actually gonna shift. Because again, yeah, on the 4-hourly, we broke, we created a high, but then actually we had a shift. There is our higher low, our high, boom, broke, pull back, lower high, massive sell off to the downside, okay? So basically right now, if you just follow structure, this is an overall lower high. Let's see if it's gonna hold. As you can see, it's already rejecting. And if we're gonna have a lower low, then that would be even more buying opportunity, right? But if not, then we're gonna break and potentially we're gonna create a new uptrend. So again, Q4 is opening. Potentially earning reports should start incoming. I'm not sure if it's gonna be the first month, but it's gonna be really interesting to see also where the stock market is gonna go with all the things that are happening. And yeah, but overall in terms of technicals, we are still bearish, okay? So be careful. Let's see how this level is gonna respond. I would love to see a break above it and then to potentially start looking for longs. Nasdaq, as you can see again, I thought that we're reversing, but probably I told you that we're still responding from this supply and that we really need to see a clear respect of that level and potentially a continuation. But again, as you can see, we just tapped, reacted, and then just dropped. Okay, so Mr. Nasdaq is bearish. Okay, so we're having a very bearish engulfing candle on the monthly. It's really an engulfing candle. So that is really surprising. Let's see if we're gonna pull back. Potentially, this is a really strong demand right there. This was a month of pullback and then we very strongly initiated outside. On the weekly time frame, it also you can see that this is the most recent pullback, the most recent real pullback before we actually initiated higher. So are we gonna have another pullback? Are we gonna pull back into discount prices, which is basically below 50%? Let's see. Possibly looking at the price and how the daily is starting to create a bearish trend, we could definitely have this, okay? Because right here we're having a lower high, right now we're having a lower low, right? The market is pushing lower. Oops, what am I doing? And potentially what we could expect right now is to have another lower high into this area and then to see another sell-off, okay? So this is my overall long-term analysis. I really can't believe that the stock market is actually in a pullback and in a bearish trend. But of course, we just follow price. The price is showing bearishness. So let's see how this is gonna play. But basically, if the 4-hourly changes right here, that does not mean that the market is gonna rocket, okay? Because we can have maybe a little change, tap inside this level and then sell off again, okay? So be mindful of those daily levels, and until those daily levels hold, until we see a break above those daily levels, then I'm gonna remain overall bearish, okay? Which means more stocks. And S&P, which is my favorite index, of course, I bought it from the downside. I bought it from here, and I was again looking at this level, if it's gonna hold, if it's gonna pull back below the 50%, and I'm on the 2 hourly, and as you can see, we actually pulled back right here. We tried to respond, but look at the pressure that is coming from the upside. It's just really bearish, right? And overall, I can say that this one is also bearish right now. If I have a look on the monthly, we're having a bearish engulfing candle. Weekly, we're just wicking inside this area. So let's see for how long it's gonna do that, and if we're having a potentially a pullback on S&P, that is gonna be golden investing opportunities. Okay, so currently I'm really interested to see how this level is gonna hold right here, because this is a lower high that made a lower low, so that is really major. Okay, it's not just a fake, it really closed below it. Okay, so let's see how it's going to respond, and if it continues to go lower, then just start dollar cost averaging. Research that, guys. DCA. Okay, you should definitely be buying as the market goes down, because this is how you actually accumulate wealth. And potentially, yeah, for me right now, this is golden, because I could have bought even more, because that is a 6% drop. And potentially my next buy area will be right here. My next buy area will be right there. And the more we drop, the more I buy, right? Of course, I can maybe short it, but that's going to be like in a different sort of investment. It's more like trading, which I'm not really interested to do when it comes to indices. Okay, so let's see. Very strong level to be looking at right here. Let's see if it's going to hold and if we're going to continue dropping lower. Crypto, on the other hand, I bought Bitcoin from here and Ethereum as well, and it's lovely, skyrocketing to the upside. The real reason is not really known. I do think technicals, because again, I really had faith in that level, and then as we very sharply dropped into the downside right there, and how the market started to accumulate usually. And right now we're pushing into the highs, so currently we're gonna respond from this little supply. So it's really important to see if we're actually gonna see a breakthrough that supply, and then potentially we can even see higher prices. I don't want to be really a bear when it comes to crypto, because I just look objectively at it, at the PA, and price action is showing me bullishness right now. So let's see how that's gonna go. But this level right here worked pretty nicely. The accumulated, right now we're breaking structure, responding from supply. So let's see, on any pullback we can potentially be looking for longs, because the market is going up. Okay, but of course with crypto you never know, and I'm also thinking of taking some profits right there. I do think it's a little bit early, because also if we look at Ethereum, I bought it at a little bit below 3k, so somewhere inside this area. A little bit of a drawdown, push, pullback, just consolidate, and right now it's pushing up, but basically it's nothing. Like I bought it at 29 or something. It's just yeah, of course it's 10%, but I bought, I think, 2 Ethereums or something, so the return is not that much. So basically looking forward to see if this one is going to respond, because in terms of a hard time frame analysis, again on the weekly, we had this massive pump into the highs. The daily had these little flat lows right there. We beautifully pulled back below 50% into demand right here. Why is this green? Into demand. And right now we're changing the most recent structure right here. So for me, it's really important to see if that is actually going to continue going like this. We have a new kind of range that created demand. So potentially if we have a pullback right here, we can definitely be looking for longs. Okay, so cryptos are going up, DXY is going up, stocks are going down. It's a very interesting situation. Opportunities are everywhere. So make sure to focus, guys, and put in the work. Okay, so guys, this is how I'm gonna wrap up this analysis. I really hope you enjoyed the monthly analysis today. Let me know down in the comments if you got something from it, if you learned something, and if it helped you on your overall processes. Hit the like button, subscribe, the notification bell as well, in order not to miss the upcoming videos. And I wish you a relaxing weekend if you're watching this during the weekend, and a crushing week ahead of you.